It has been a long summer and a lot has been going on. Parties, babies. It was a lot. So I decided to take a trip. I decided to catch a jet bus, with the goal in mind to spend a cool 48 hours with my daughter in the city that never sleeps. If you don't know what a jet bus is, it is a luxury bus that travels right now just from DC to New York and back. It is a wonderful ride, and I knew that it would be 4 hours where I could relax, and I even brought a book. The book that I read on my trip was the book Yellow Wife by Sadiqa Johnson, and I have a whole alternate set of videos on my book channel if you're interested in knowing more about this book and how it impacted my trip. Same footage pretty much, but totally different narration. And it's all about this book. So I'll link the other channel in the description box if you're interested in that. And let's get back to my trip to New York. When we arrived in New York, we were pretty hungry. The jet bus is really awesome. You get actual service on the bus. There's someone who's taking care of you, getting you drinks and snacks. But the snacks were lacking. Basically, it's just prepackaged like chips and things like that. It's not their fault. It was our first time on the bus. We just didn't know. And we had to get up so early, we didn't get breakfast. So if you're ever in the DC area and you're taking the jet bus, or in the New York area and you're taking it back, if you need a meal, if you need more food, you may want to eat first, eat before, grab coffee, or, something like that. Anyway, the first thing we did after we put our bags down was we found food. We were staying in the SoHo area, so we just found a restaurant that was near the hotel. And it was food that we liked, Cafe Havana. It was very good. It's really interesting because when you're in New York City, I would imagine, especially in the SoHo area, but who knows, maybe it's like that in other parts of New York too, you're going to be able to find good restaurants. That's just a given. After we ate, we went back to our hotel, and this is our hotel room. It is about 214 square feet. It's very tiny, but very demure, very cutesy. So if you watch YouTube regularly, if you watch people who take trips to New York, especially like during Fashion Week, a lot of the fashion girlies and lifestyle girlies will come and stay at Public Hotel. That is not the whole reason why I picked this hotel. It's part of the reason. The first part of the reason was because it was one of the first hotels that popped up when I was looking for hotels in SoHo. And I recognized it. And I was like, well, okay, this is what's popping up. I have seen this in countless videos. A lot of people stay here. Let's just go ahead and stay here for the 2 nights. I probably would have picked a larger room just because I like space. But this actually was very sufficient for our 2-day stay. It was my daughter and myself. We don't mind sharing a bed. I mean, we shared a whole body at one point, right? So, of course, we don't mind sharing a bed. I do snore, though, so I do worry that I keep her up. Well, we actually both snore, but once I'm asleep, nothing keeps me up. But it's a very tiny room. It was, for the most part, very clean, though. And because we were only here for 2 nights and we didn't have a ton of luggage, it actually worked out. Of course, it could have been a little bit bigger because, your hotel room technically can always be a little bit bigger, right? The layout, the aesthetics, everything was very pretty or cute, and it was very efficient as well. So no real complaints. I think my biggest complaint was the fact that the toilet and the shower were in the room together, and that makes it a wet room. So after a shower, if you had to use the toilet, you were pretty much having to use it in a wet room. That, I don't know, it felt kind of yucky. But other than that, I enjoyed the room, and I enjoyed the view from the room. That was the whole reason why you stay here, to be very honest. This particular hotel has a couple of restaurants, a rooftop bar / restaurant, technically. And I think they actually have 2 rooftop areas, but one is lower than the other. So I don't know if it's considered a rooftop or just like a ballroom with a balcony. I'm not really sure how that works. But The public spaces in the hotel were very, very cool. The downstairs had a separate restaurant, but also a huge co-working space in the lobby. Rather than having a lobby with a concierge or with, the big desk where you check in, they used their lobby as more of a co-working space. And there was a juice bar there and lots of seating, and people could come in if they want. I think if you weren't staying at the hotel, you still had to pay a fee, but you could come in and you could use their Wi-Fi and you can just sit there and work all day. And I love that. I love that about this hotel. I love that about New York City. One thing New York is going to give you is a co-working space. So our first night, we didn't do very much. We got something to eat on the rooftop, checked everything out up there, and then we came in for the night because we were exhausted. We had to get up early in the morning. We did our first days, walk through the city a little bit. You see where you are, you get your bearings. And then we decided to call it an early evening because we knew we were going to get up to, more fun shenanigans the next day. One World Trade Centers are right there.
We're here?
That's it right there.
Oh my God.
As far as sleeps go, it wasn't a bad sleep. I snore and I kept thinking that I was going to be keeping my daughter up. So every time I would snore, I would wake myself up. When I was giving you the tour of the room yesterday, I did not show you the other parts of the hotel, like the rooftop, things like that, or even the view, really. I mainly just focused on the interior of the room, but I will say that this hotel has some pretty cool public spaces. The iconic elevator that you have probably seen if you watch a lot of YouTube videos and you watch people who have come here and stayed in New York. There's the bakery, the contactless lobby where if you don't need anybody, you can check in without seeing a person. But they're there. They pop out occasionally to help. And then there's the view. Believe it or not, we didn't eat a lot while we were in New York. We mostly walked. But one thing we had to do was we had to visit Sadelle's because we had to get bagels and the, I guess, infamous bagel tower. I don't know if it's infamous, but I've seen a lot of people talk about it on social media. The Lox and Bagel Tower. You can get salmon, you can get caviar. They have quite a selection of things that you can put on your bagel. And I drank the tap water for the first time as well, and I have to say I like it. I don't know where I've been ever where I've willingly drank the tap water. The tap water here smells horrendous, so I don't even think about tap water. And I know when in New York, they said the tap water is amazing. And it was fine. It didn't have any weird aftertaste or it didn't taste musty or earthy. It was great. But you know what was even better? The bagels and the salmon. And we really enjoyed Sadelle's. It was a really good, hearty breakfast. And we ended up not really eating very much for the rest of the day because this breakfast really held us over, especially because we walked something like 6 miles this particular day. This was our first and only full day in New York City. Like I said, it was supposed to be about a 48-hour trip. So we arrived and spent, the evening, and then we had this full day, and then of course we would have a few hours the next day. For this summer, I've just been drinking matcha. That's been my drink of choice. So we found this restaurant or cafe called Matchaful. I don't know. I guess it's not a cafe though, if it solely sells matcha, right? I don't know what you would call it. A matcha cafe. That sounds right. I think that'll do. And they put all kinds of things in their matcha. I opted just for kind of a regular matcha with vanilla. Normally they would put ashwagandha in your matcha, but they were out of ashwagandha, and I've never had that in my matcha, so I did not think that I missed anything by not getting it. But the matchas were cute. The place itself was very cute. They had indoor and outdoor seating, and it was a whole vibe. The matcha was good too. It was very earthy, because that's how matcha is. But it was really good. Whatever they put in it, it was a good time. Not too sweet too. So if you don't like your matcha really sweet, you will probably like this place. This is pretty much bookstore day. So, and I say bookstore day, but we only ended up going to 2 bookstores. The McNally Jackson bookstore, which I think I could have spent all day here in these stacks. Just a really it's just a bookstore. Like when I think of a bookstore, this is what I think of. And I love how everything is categorized, and you can just walk through the stacks and look at books, touch books, open books, read books, whatever. I mean, that's what you do in a bookstore, right? But it's so cool though when you're in New York and you get to do what you see people do, what I've seen people do on movies and television forever. It's like, let's go hang out in a bookstore. People really do come to the bookstore in New York. I know that might sound really crazy because it's like, well, what else would they do? But believe it or not, I've lived in a lot of places, and I've lived in places that don't really have bookstores, or if they do, it's just one. And sometimes you can go into a bookstore and you could throw a snowball, and it'll just whistle from one end to the other because you're not going to hit anybody. Nobody's going to get hit because nobody's in there. The bookstore near my house, I'd be surprised if they saw more than 50 people a day in that bookstore. I could be totally wrong, but whenever I've gone in there, it's usually just me and like maybe 2 other people, and that's it. And here, people in New York, I mean, I know they have their share of tourists, so of course the tourists come to the bookstores, but I feel like people use their bookstores here, and they probably use their libraries too. And I'm glad that's not just like a television thing. The other cool part about the McNally Jackson bookstore is their stationery section. I love paper goods. I have so much paper and so many notebooks and so many different pens and pencils and markers. I definitely don't need to buy any more, and yet I'm always on the hunt for something new and special. And one of these days, I'm either going to open my own stationery store and sell all this stuff, or I'm actually going to figure out how to use it. But I keep collecting it because that's what I do. The second bookstore that we went to was Bibliotech, which is like a bookstore but co-working space too. And they have a bar. The bar does happy hour. They have coffee, great artwork. And I got a cherry limeade. This is not the cherry limeade. This is a juice from the hotel that I stayed in. But Bibliotech was a whole vibe. I did do a blind date with a book there, which for some reason I still haven't opened yet, but I will. On this day, we also went to the Muji store, and we tried to go to Sephora. That was a bust. That Sephora was crazy. The Sephora on Broadway. We ended up on the rooftop for a couple drinks and a couple bites to eat. But again, like I said, we really didn't eat a whole lot. We didn't eat a whole lot on this whole trip, and I'm okay with that. I felt like I just didn't need to be stuffing myself with food all the time. One thing that I didn't get the opportunity to do was to get pizza. When we did try to go and get pizza, we went to Prince Street Pizza, and on their menu it says gluten-free, that they do have a gluten-free option. And they do, but you have to order a whole gluten-free pizza. And I didn't want a whole pizza. I just wanted a slice. And my daughter didn't want a whole pizza. So we opted out. We just ended up on the rooftop. And that was a nice vibe. Hurry! I just want to see what they have. Maybe I want something. Maybe I don't. rearview mirror, very mindful.
We didn't go straight back, so.
Yeah. I tell you what, it'd be jumping here at night.
City that never sleeps.
I guess we on our knees. Maybe they have any jewelry in there. I don't see anything. Our last day in New York City, we actually had quite a few hours to kill. Our bus was not scheduled to leave until 3 p.m. So we had time to do a little more shopping, do a little more exploring on some of the higher end streets. I say higher end streets because they're the streets where the more higher end stores are. And we also picked up a bag, which I didn't get footage of, an extra bag from Dagny Dover. For some reason, I was filming as we were walking up to the Dagny Dover store, but I don't know why I didn't get any footage. Anyway, I did purchase a bag, which I'll try to pop in here if I can find it. I love Dagny Dover because their bags are so squishy and roomy, and I love the colors as well. We decided to grab a bite to eat at Maman. Now, if you know, we actually do have, I think, 3 different Mamans here in the DMV area. So in this instance, we were just getting something that we already knew. And it's very interesting because Mamans are always really roomy places, but they're kind of hidden gems too. There was seating all throughout this building, but when you first come in, you can't tell. You kind of have to go through a maze. This particular Maman was connected to the paper source, which was really kind of nice. For the record, I never get to Maman early enough to get like the special treats. I typically get the breakfast sandwich, but this time I was able to get the marshmallow croissant, which was really cute. It was good. The cookie was just okay, and that everything croissant, oh my gosh, definitely getting that the next time I go. I've also heard that Jack's wife Frida is also a good restaurant to go to for breakfast, but we already ate at Maman and we just didn't have time. Maybe next time. As stated before, we spent most of the day just kind of walking around and checking out things. We did pick up a couple things from Paper Source as well. Just trying to take in the city on a mild, lovely Thursday morning. It wasn't too hot. The sun was shining. It was really, really nice. And we just wanted to hang out a little bit more before it was time to head back to DC. One thing that I think that I will do the next time I stay in SoHo is I will probably stay closer in. There are a couple of actual hotels that are on the cleaner, nicer streets. And that's kind of a big deal for me. One thing that I love about New York City is that it has everything. The food is good. The shopping is amazing. But a lot of the streets are very dirty. And that happens in cities, so that's not a big deal. But when I'm in Georgetown, it's a lot cleaner. But there are a few streets that have newer buildings, newer stores. They've been remodeled, and there are a couple of hotels. And those streets are actually very clean and very aesthetic, and you can take pictures there. But the city is the city. I'm not complaining about the city. I'm from the city, and downtown LA is no different. So I'm not complaining, but I do love the fact that Georgetown is just a tad bit cleaner, and that's mainly because it's smaller. Before we left, we made it a point to stop into the SoHo News International newsstand because I am obsessed with magazines and periodicals. I would love to have my own magazine one day, and so I had to go. I had to see it for myself, and I loved walking around and being completely surrounded by magazines and, glossy books and some newspapers and things like that. It's like jam-packed full of just every periodical you can think of. I was in heaven, but I just couldn't take everything back with me. I would have purchased so much more, but who was going to carry all of that? And honestly, I didn't need it anyway. So that was pretty much our trip. Our Uber was a Tesla. In fact, both of our Ubers were Teslas, but this one had the sunroof thing. I've never ridden in a Tesla, you guys. It's just not something that I've done before. I didn't know they had that complete sunroof thingy, but that was really cool. And I rather enjoyed my ride. It was kind of interesting seeing the city from a different angle. I guess sometimes you just have to look up, right? Very, very cool. I'm sure I'm not the first one to do this, but the artist slash photographer in me really got a kick out of the moonroof or whatever you call it. How come I don't have that in my car? It would be so cool. I'd probably spend most of my time looking up though, and very little time driving. Maybe it's for the best. By the way, the whole time that we were riding, the driver was playing like 80s music, and Wham's Wake Me Up Before You Go Go was playing. And I would let that play, but I don't want to get a copyright strike. But just know that that's what we were listening to while we were riding. So it was really a whole vibe, the ride back to the jet bus. Vibes and all. Like it was a really nice and unexpected ending to our time in New York City. And just like that, we're back on the bus, headed out, and headed home. I really, really enjoyed my time. I'll miss you, New York. But now it's time for me to go. Such a cool place. Didn't quite finish my book on the ride home. I had really just a few pages left, something like 20. But oh my God, you guys, I can't stress enough how good the book Yellow Wife is. Again, if you're interested in that video, I'm leaving a link in the description box with my alternate travel video, reading while traveling. I talk in depth about Yellow Wife. As of the posting of this video, I do not have part 3 up of the Yellow Wife video on the other channel. It's coming. I somehow misplaced the footage or else it would already be up. But by the time this goes up, parts 1 and 2 will be up, just not 3. Anyway, we made it back in time for a beautiful DMV sunset. I think DMV sunsets are so underrated and are really a best kept secret, which I sometimes think should just stay a secret. But we have lovely sunsets here. And being from Los Angeles, I mean, we have a whole street called Sunset. Sunsets are amazing there, but they can be spectacular here as well. I was glad to get back home. Hubby was just a tad bit late picking me up, but I'll charge it to his head, not to his heart. And I can't wait for the next trip. I have it on good authority that it's something tropical, maybe the Caribbean, but we shall see. All right, you guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed our little trip to New York Here's just a few photos to talk us out. Hit the like button if you like this video. It's okay to like the videos. And leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. If you like New York City, don't like New York City, if you've been there, if you have suggestions for the next time I go, leave me a comment. And also, check out the other video on the other channel if you're interested. All right. Love you and leave you. See you in the next one.